A little too soon. A little too soon. Welcome to another of our virtual author events. I'm Avisa with Uncle Bobbie's Coffee and Books in Germantown, Philadelphia, and I am so happy to have so many awesome participants for what is going to be a really special author event. Today we are going to be here discussing the new release, Ikenga by Nnedi Okorafor, and which you are able to purchase by clicking the button below, the green button. We have a local educator, Mishel who will be moderating and having this discussion with Nnedi. Mishel Williams, I'm sorry. Mishel Williams is a 12-year career educator who specializes in special education, English, language arts, and social justice. She's a Temple University alumni, and she's dedicated her life working with students and families in the Philadelphia community since 2005. She's currently teaching at the KIPP Philadelphia Public Charter School and is a grade team leader for the 9th grade. Our featured author for the evening, Nnedi Okorafor, is the daughter of Nigerian-born Igbo parents. She grew up in the Chicago area with frequent trips back to Nigeria. There, she absorbed the history and mythology that infuses her works of science fiction and fantasy. She's received the Hugo, the Nebula, the World Fantasy Award, and the Locus Award for her work. And her fans include Neil Gaiman, Rick Riordan, John Green, and Ursula Le Guin. Ms. Okorafor, she holds a PhD in English and lives with her daughter in Chicago. Ikenga is I'll let the panelists give you more information, but I'll just say right now that it's a superhero story, and I'm so excited to get into it. So without further ado, please help me warmly welcome Nnedi Okorafor and Mishel Williams. One moment, let me make sure everyone can hear you both. There we go. Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you.
My pleasure.
Just wanted to remind everyone before we get into it that we're going to have a conversation, and then afterward there will be a question and answer session. And so please submit your questions to the side chat bar so that all the panelists can see. Great. Thanks.
All right, let's jump into it. Okay, so out of 18 books, let's pause there. 18. This is your first middle school book. What does that feel like?
Yeah, it feels right. I mean, I've written for children. I've written for young adults, and I've been all over the place. So it doesn't surprise me. And when I write these books, it's not like I sit down and think, okay, I'm going to write for this group, this category. Right. I just write it. So, and up until this point, it's come out, and I've written a bit of everything. So
sure, and it's only right.
Right.
Middle year finally got its turn.
Yeah.
What was Nnedi like in middle school? What would she think of this book?
She would have read the heck out of this book.
Hey, say why? What was she like?
I was a very big reader. I read, if there was a good story, I read it. And I wasn't, okay, bye. I wasn't, it wasn't that I was aware that I was reading a lot of books where I did not see reflections of myself, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. Especially when it came to stuff for my age group, just nothing, absolutely nothing. So if I had a book like this, it would have been huge for me. It would have.
Do you think you would have started writing earlier?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably not.
No,
probably not. Like, it took going through what I went through to turn. Like, it took my head and strongly turned it towards storytelling, because before that, it was not even, it just wasn't even in it wasn't in my atmosphere at all.
Right.
So I think, I mean, even if I had read, I would have enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have thought, oh, this is something that I could do or that I want to do. But I would have greatly enjoyed it and looked for more. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So let's get into Ikenga. I want to start right from the title. It's such a unique title. I had to Google and figure out what an Ikenga was. And so tell us a little bit more about that, right? I believe it means strength of a movement.
An Ikenga, it's a complicated thing. There are many different types of Ikengas, but it's to make it really simple. It's an Igbo. Ikengas are very specifically Igbo, which is an ethnic group, a Nigerian ethnic group. It's a symbol, or it's a symbol of strength. It's a physical object of strength, and it's very close. It's very much associated. It's a very male object, and it's given to a man, and when he dies, he keeps half of it. Half of it is buried with him, and then the other half is thrown away. But it's a very it's one of the strongest, it's one of the most powerful, strongest symbols of the Igbo people. Yeah.
Nice. Is there a female equivalent? That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. See, the Igbos are a very patriarchal.
Uh-huh.
I have an Ikenga though. I have one, and I'm female, but like,
nice.
There isn't, but there are, of course there are feminine symbols of strength amongst the Igbo, but the Igbo are very patriarchal people. So
got it. All right.
Yeah.
So being though that Nigeria is it's your place of origin, right? Your family's from Nigeria. Is that your greatest source of inspiration when you're writing your books, or do you pull from other sources?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, the root is always will always be Nigeria. Very specifically, our own Indiazog, where that's my father's village and my mother's ancestral village is Ikenga. Those two places. And when I say specifically, it's because like from a very young age, I've been going back. My parents have been taking my siblings and I back to Nigeria to get to know relatives and our heritage and all of that. But those trips were very pivotal and central to me growing up, because I had we grew up in a very racist part of the south suburbs of Chicago. So while going through all of that, and it was like, this was in the 80s, and my sisters and my brother is 7 years younger than me. So he didn't go through a lot of this because we moved by the time he was old enough. But my sisters and I were all exactly 1 year apart. So we went through all of this together. We went through, we dealt with a lot. We were lucky that we were athletic and that we were fast. We heard the N-word every day. I have stories. It was a very, very American experience. So while that was happening, my parents were taking us back to Nigeria. And this is like a part of the world where, everyone was Black. And,
right.
And you're meeting your grandparents and your cousins and your aunts and your uncles and all of this. And so you have this connection and they don't have racism there. They have something called tribalism there. And you're just learning. The world just got a lot bigger for me. So those trips, especially at that time when we were living in that really racist neighborhood, were pivotal to me, because when we would go there, we would be the American Nigerian kids. So we were coming there as outsiders, insiders, and like, it was just, God, it was just so much. But like, specifically my father's village, where we have 2 houses there, and then we have one in my mom's village. But my father's village was like a place of, when it comes to my creativity and my stories, it was there. Like, that's where the root is. There were like, I can't explain it, but it was specifically there. And so when I write, that's where everything kind of flows from. And so like now, of course, I've written about other parts of Africa, the diaspora, but like the root will always be that specific place.
Nice. So when you were talking about the very American way you grew up, I thought of, wow, what a very traumatic way to grow up. And then you're going home to your home country. And was there a sense of like not fitting in because of that American Nigerian? Or were you like, did they wrap their arms around you like, oh, y'all are home? Like,
it was both. Like, first of all, like, I don't see my time in those racist neighborhoods. I don't remember it as traumatic. I remember it as rosy. I remember it as great. Like, because like the racism around us couldn't put out the joy of just like there was joy. There was a lot of joy, and they couldn't put that out. So like, even though we had to deal with all of that, I still remember my childhood is as fun. That's beautiful. We outran the racists every time. Like, you know,
I love
if I
that.
had to punch somebody, I punched them, and it felt, yeah. So we had that. But you know, of course, so there was that sense of not fitting in the United States. There's that for things we're familiar with here. But then when we would go back, it was like, yeah, you were the American Nigerian, so you fit in, you had cousins, you look like your cousins, you have the same relatives, and you know some of the language, you recognize things, you have, your name is the same, you know, sure. Things are recognizable, but you know, you're American at the same time. You mispronounce all the words and you get made fun of as you're, you know, you'd have like all of these little boys would follow you laughing every time you spoke. And then, say Christmas again. It's supposed to be Christmas, but say Christmas, and you say Christmas.
They were like fetishizing you a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But it was,
oh man,
like, you learned. It wasn't traumatic. It wasn't.
Right.
It was more like it was it was just what you were, and that was one of the things that I learned. It's like, okay, you don't fit in here, and then you don't fit in over there. And instead of that being a traumatic thing for me, where I'm just like, oh yeah, I just learned to. That's my cat. Just ignore that.
Okay.
I knew it.
It did start.
I'm gonna get through one of these without him doing this at least once. Okay.
So funny.
Okay. What was I saying? But yeah, like I learned to embrace all of that. I embraced the differences. I embraced the similarities. And because of that, you know, it became a comfortable thing, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, it wasn't, we definitely didn't fit in, and that was okay. That was
nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I love that you all like paved your own way. That's important. So speaking of paving a way, the main character, Nnedi, he has to pave his own way, right?
Yeah.
And his family, specifically Auntie, is like a close family person, like with him, and along with his mother. Father passed. Talk a little bit about Nnedi's like development throughout the book and what we can expect to see. Yeah,
I mean, Nnedi is like, he's a sweet kid. He's hard-headed too, and he's a strong kid as well. But like, he starts off where he loses, you know, he's close to his father. He loved everything, you know, that his father was doing, but at the same time, he's a kid, so he's not completely informed about.
He's 12.
You know,
right?
He's 12, and he's not going to know these things. He knows what his parents tell him, and he knows that he respects his father and what his father's doing, and there was also fear there, you know, when his father is murdered, and so he goes on this journey where it's in a lot of ways it's a discovery of self. It's a cat. It's a coming of accepting. His father passes. A year later, he is gifted with this Ikenga, to really simplify it, this magical object that gives him great strength. And he has to learn how to use that. He has to figure out how to navigate through that. So it's a growing experience for him. You know, it's all a growing experience. He's lost his father. He feels kind of out at sea, and he has to figure out who he is and how to navigate all of that.
Sure. And I think what's really cool about it being a middle years book is that's essentially your middle years,
Yeah.
right? Discovering who you are, your
Mhm.
strengths, having to be vulnerable and having all these new experiences. So you kind of answered the question in the beginning, but I was gonna say, like, was that on purpose, like to write this as a middle years book?
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it wasn't. Yeah, you said
But,
that.
like, but the character and you know, and I've said this before that, like, one of the reasons why the way that I write lends itself to so many ages is because I have, you know, I come from a journalistic background. You know, I have a master's in journalism. I was a reporter before, so I've like, you know, I've gone through, I'm also a product of creative writing courses in college. Like I was not writing until I was 19. I didn't write anything creatively until I was 19. So I've come up through, I'm a product of the creative writing program, but also I'm a product of journalism. And one thing about journalism is that your whole purpose is for people to understand what you are saying. So you write in such a way that you are understood by many as opposed to by few. So I don't write, I just don't naturally write in a very complex way. It's more about the story itself. So take that tendency and then add the fact that I also like to write in different ages. You know, I like to write characters of various ages. So with this one, I just happened to be writing this story about a 12-year-old. You know, and it was like, it was really those trips to especially that part of Nigeria that wasn't completely, it wasn't city. It was very townish with its own internal small dramas. And I wanted to set a story there, and I wanted to see this boy go through all of that. And you know, there's a strong female character as well in the story, but like, you know, that was really what made Ikenga what it is.
And I love that. And because your writing style lends itself to so many audiences, when a middle school student reads this book, what are they going to remember most versus when an adult reader reads this book? Is it the same or is it different?
I would think it will be different. There's a scene near the end where I'm like, oh, this is the part that
don't give it away.
I know.
No
when
spoilers.
I like it's one of my favorite parts too. Yeah, there's a
look, if
so
you want to
fun.
spoil it, you spoil. I'm not going to spoil.
But when I was writing it, I was like, oh man, if I read this when I was this age, I would love this. Like this, like I have a very, you know, I remember what it was to be that age, and I remember what I enjoyed. You know, and I know that specific part, which I can't mention. It's so much fun. You'll know.
I messed you up. I'm sorry.
Like, oh, yeah. You'll know.
Okay. All right. Nice. Is this like because you write a lot of series, right? You have the Akata series. Did you know Akata was going to be a series? Do we know if Ikenga is going to be a series?
I actually don't write a lot of series. I write like things that, because I have so many stories in my, I just want to do this and then I want to do this. And I'm like, oh, I've been in this world long enough. I want to move on. Like for me to write like a long series is rare, you know, but the Akata series I knew from the first book, and it was not, the Akata books, Akata Witch was not marketed as a series because at the time, and we're in very different publishing times right now, but at the time, you know, to have this story about Black kids in Nigeria going on adventures and dealing with the mystical world and you know, all of this cultural mysticism was not in, what was it, 2011, was not something that was easy to swallow for the publishing world, you know. Sure. And so when it came out, it was a risk. It was considered a risk, and so my editors were like, okay, well, let's put this out as a standalone, and that was, but I knew it was a series. I wrote it as a series. The ending actually, like a lot of the reviews say that, oh, the ending was very abrupt, and that was one of the things they always say. And every time I see that, I'd be like, because the book, like, that's not even the ending. The ending was open, like the ending clearly led into it being a series. It I knew. So Akata Witch, that was a series. Binti, that's a whole other story. And the way that came about was very organic, and I did not know it was a series. But even though it made sense to be a series, and that was different. Ikenga, we'll leave that open.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave that open.
All right. So, like, what is your writing process? If you don't already know what's going to be a series, like, talk us through your writing process with Ikenga.
My writing process as a whole is chaos. It's organized chaos. I often don't know what something is or where something's going. I don't outline. I sit down and just start writing. That's how I write. Like, sometimes I won't even know I'll just know the character. I hear my characters talk. I hear they talk to me. So I'll know that part of it, but I don't know often where it's going. Like Who Fears Death, I just sat and started writing. That one I didn't even know. But like I've written so many novels at this point, it's intuitive. The shape of the story is intuitive.
Okay.
Like I don't have to guide myself. It knows where it's gonna go. So
do you always start beginning to start? Do you ever start a book with the ending?
Yeah, I don't. I'm a nonlinear writer as well. So that's what I mean. Organized chaos. I'll write the ending, or I'll write the middle, and then just jump around, and then bring it all together, and then I'll edit that thing, and then edit that, and edit that. So yeah, I typically don't. Yeah, I don't write. I'm not a linear writer at all. Yeah,
cool.
I think I wasn't written like that.
Being as though these are the new times and COVID is our new world, we're not sitting together. Has COVID experience of social distancing been a blessing for your writing process, or like a curse and you've got a block? I mean, I have a feeling you don't have a block.
No, I don't even believe in writer's block. So, so I don't experience writer's block because I don't believe in it. But yeah, it has been, it's hard to say it's a blessing because it's such a terrible curse of a virus that's just messed up so much. But like in a specific way for Nnedi's writing, because I was traveling a lot. Like I love traveling. I do a lot of events and I was doing a lot of that. And I was writing while I was traveling. So that wasn't stopping my writing. But once this all came about where, you couldn't jump on a plane and go somewhere. And I've been home since March, and I have written more than I have ever written. It's been nonstop, because there were things that I wanted to write, but it was like, I was moving around so much. So I was writing on airplanes and airports and all that. Once I stopped, everything that had been coming just really just flowed forth.
That's so exciting. So how many more books can we expect?
Yeah, man. Let's see. I finished. Okay, so Remote Control comes out in January. I finished an adult novel called Noor. I finished a first draft of the third Akata book. That is because of not being able to travel. Like, I did not expect myself to finish that. And I have so many, like, I'm working on several film projects right now.
Tell us about those.
Yeah. So Who Fears Death was optioned by HBO. I'm a consultant for that. And then Binti was optioned by Hulu, and I am co-writing the pilot for that.
That is amazing.
I'm co-writing the pilot for Octavia Butler's Wild Seed, and that went through Amazon Studios. I'm doing 2 other secret projects, so that's 5, and all at the same time while writing, Akata Witch 3 or Akata 3 and this other stuff and some other stuff on top of that.
So when do you give yourself pause? Like, what does Nnedi do when she turns off her writing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The cat, right? You play with the cat.
I watch movies. I do watch TV, and I watch movies, and being home has I have a treadmill. I bought this really expensive treadmill because the gym's closed and I work out a lot. So I have this really expensive treadmill. I spend a lot, like 2 hours a day on that thing, like running, because I'm restless. And
that is so good.
that's where I watch my TV. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, let's jump into some questions.
Sure.
All right. So this is a viewer submission. And I'm sorry, I'm like going like this. It's like a little far. All right. So it says, so many of your protagonists are in between two worlds, trying to make sense of them both and learning how they fit in that liminal space. How has recording those journeys changed you, if at all?
That's a great question. And I do write a lot about characters who are between.
And that question was from, and I don't mean to interrupt you, it was from Sharon November. She wants me to let you know.
Sharon November. Hi, Sharon. That's my editor. That was my editor for Akatowicz. Yes, I know Sharon well. She's awesome. Yes, I do write. I do tend to do that, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, I live in multiple worlds, you know, and the prominent ones are like being Nigerian American, and that comes out that has affected me so much, and it really wasn't a conscious thing. It wasn't so much of a conscious thing. Boy, I have so many books. It's like hard to tell which one to, you know, but like. It wasn't a conscious thing to write about characters between multiple worlds, but I think it's not so much that they've changed me as there is, you know, it's a back and forth kind of thing, because a lot of what they are is inspired by experiences that I have had. I can say that writing Binti, you know, this character who is, you know, she's born of in a very traditional family, and then leaves the planet to go to a university on another planet. Writing that allowed me to kind of deal with some of my own issues, you know, some of my own familial issues, and kind of face some of my fears. Writing Nnedi with in Ikenga, he has this power that gives him great strength, and he has to learn how to deal with that. And there's a lot of rage, and he has to learn how to deal with his rage, because his rage can cause a lot of destruction. It was really, you know, watching him go through that, you know, it taught me some things as well. It taught me some things about, God, it's hard not to give things away.
Right. Don't do that, because then you'll be mad at me.
I'll leave it at that. He taught me some things. But
all right, let's go to the next question before you flip something out.
Yeah.
So this next there were two questions, but I'm going to combine them because they're similar. It says, how do you know when you've edited enough? Like trying to know the difference between changes for the better or changes for the sake of change.
Yeah, that's something I've only learned over time. But I'm also, and it's like at this point, it's intuitive. Like I know when it's done. I just know when it's done. And I do a lot of editing, a lot. That's the biggest part of my writing process when I write anything, is the editing process. It's very involved. And so I know it intuitively. Early on, I don't know. It's like you just know. You just know. But like you have to, but there's a mechanism in just knowing, because some people use that to procrastinate. Some people use that to not show it to anybody. There's an honesty in you have to look within and be very honest with yourself to know when it's done. And also,
have you
use the same. Oh, but
I'm sorry.
Last thing, you use the same honesty to know when it's not done, and when you're being lazy.
I was gonna say, have you ever gotten edits back from your editor or people who you trust to like preview your work that you just didn't like? or just like, wow, I hadn't even thought of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think I'm very good at is being open to criticism and feedback, but I also have really good editors. So
Nice.
there's that. I have really good editors who I trust. And so that means I can, when they give me feedback, even if it's harsh and even if it's big, ask me to do something big, I can trust that. And I'm open enough to be able to take it in. And typically, you know, editorial letters, which is it's usually a long, especially the first draft, it's a long letter from your editor. Those sometimes it takes me like 2 days to read it. like it will just sit in my inbox. I'm like, I'm not ready.
Right. I don't want to see it.
Yes. And then I'll just bring it out and just read it. It's painful. It's very, very painful, but you have to be open to hearing it. And because I have good editors, there haven't been too many times where I'm like, oh no, that's completely wrong. You know,
Got it.
I know that if something's completely wrong, I will say that. But
right, we can honor the truth in that, right?
Yeah.
We have another question. It says, what does it feel like to see your stories come alive on the screen? Is it exciting? Are you nervous? Are you nervous that they'll get it wrong?
Yeah, I haven't experienced it yet. It's like there's so much work that goes into the stuff before it. I haven't thought about that very much, because it's like, to get some of this stuff done, you can't think all the way down the line. You have to think about what's directly in front of you.
Sure.
And get that done. And I know that when you have your head down, it's like walking towards something, like walking towards a wall with your head down. So when it comes, I'm gonna hit the wall. And there's always that fear that they'll get things wrong. I'm very involved in the process, so I'll know early on if they're gonna get it wrong.
Right, if they're going in the right direction or not.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a fear, and that is something that's worth fighting for. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's your work. They're your babies.
Yeah, it's something I'm very concerned with, and something that I'm ready to do a lot of work to make sure that it happens the way it should. Yeah.
Awesome. We have another question. You guys keep these questions going. The next one is, fiction is a great place to escape. Whose work do you read for that escape?
Yeah. I jump around a lot, especially during this time. I've jumped around a lot. There have been certain things that I can't read just yet. Like I've wanted to read Parable of the Sower again. Can't do it. Nope. Can't do it. But what have I been reading? I've been jumping around a lot. I've been reading a lot of different things.
Do you have like a guilty pleasure trash TV thing you watch on that 2 hours of that treadmill?
Yeah, it's hard to read on the treadmill because you're bouncing, and that's why I miss my Stairmaster so much. But it's at the gym. I miss the Stairmaster. Oh my God, because you can read on the Stairmaster because
right.
But like on the treadmill, you can't read, and listening to audiobooks just doesn't do it. So yeah, I've had to a lot. I tend to watch a lot of TV. In terms of TV, I've watched. What is it? I May Destroy You. Is that it? I May Destroy HBO's I May Destroy You. I always get it wrong. I want to say I Want to Destroy You. I think it's I May Destroy You. That one's one that I've been watching. I've been reading a lot of Ursula Le Guin, just kind of returning to Earthsea, because there's something very soothing and comforting about Earthsea. But yeah, I've just, right now I'm drawing a blank because I've been reading so many different books, like just
that's all right.
Everything. And like, there isn't one author and a lot of them are new authors. A lot of them are, I've been doing a lot of graphic novels as well, but yeah.
Are there any new authors that you're especially excited about to see their work evolve? No one just like catching. Okay.
Not really. I there's a lot out there, and I mean, at this right now that I can't really name anyone specific. I mean, there's a lot out there. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if there's any more questions. My screen has froze, but our audio has been good. And you still see me, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have another question. Did writing across various age demographics for your books come naturally to you, or was it part of your craft that you developed?
Various demographics, is in like categories or comics and all that, or is it like there's so many different ways to take that question?
Right. I mean, take it where you want.
I guess we could talk about like, because I've just been doing so many different types of writing in terms of like comics, screenwriting, short stories, novellas.
Tell us a little more about your comics.
Yeah. So LaGuardia just won an Eisner and a Hugo Award, and that's
Congrats.
amazing. But yeah, that's, and I was writing LaGuardia while I was writing Shuri, writing for Marvel. So I was doing Shuri, Black Panther, and the Dora Milaje, like while I was writing LaGuardia. So, and like those experiences were so different. The writing, because LaGuardia is my story, like that's something that's a story that I came up with. And then of course Marvel has the whole Marvel universe. So I was jumping between, and those are two different types of writing as well. And
right.
And it's I think a lot of that I know how to learn, and I think I learned how to learn while earning my bachelor's, 2 masters, and PhD. So it's like going through.
You're a scholar.
Yeah. And so like I know how to learn. Like that's one of the greatest things that I learned from all of that is that, and also being a journalist too, because when you're asked to write a story on something, you have to quickly learn about that something before you go and interview the people and then write something up. So like that learning how to learn has helped me kind of learn different types of writing as I'm moving through it. So that's been, really nourishing. Yeah.
I love that learning how to learn. I think we could all develop and be great if we did a little bit more of that. So Sarah, who asked that initial question, said she was specifically mentioning middle grade, adult, and young adult.
You mean what the difference is in writing them, or how I came about doing it?
I guess she means the naturally part of writing across the various demographics. Like, did that come across naturally? But I think you kind of answer that because you don't go with the genre in mind. You just kind of get the story out. That accurate?
But also it reflects the way that I read as well. I read across all, in order to, and this is something that, I've taught this in my creative writing classes. In order to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. You have to enjoy, like if you don't read and you don't know what it feels like that joy of a story, then you can't, I don't know how you can duplicate that in writing. So I read I still read just for fun. It's not for research. It's not for anything other than I enjoy. I read young adult novels. I read middle grade. One of the books that I did go back to reading, was it last week? I reread The Witches by Roald Dahl because I love The Witches, and it's a different kind of. And so when you read all of that, you especially when you read a lot of it, you learn. You kind of learn just by seeing how that's done. So it's already in you. So when I sit down to write it, it just comes forth. It's almost like
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We have another question. It says, with so many projects on your plate, do you start the day with a rough schedule, or do you start according to inspiration?
It's inspiration. Like every time I wake up, but there often, if there's something that's urgent, then it's that thing. Like
Right.
if there's a script that I'm in the middle of and I need to finish that, or
Yeah.
if I'm, if there's a chapter in one of the books that I'm writing that I know it well, I know exactly what happens. That's what I'm going to want to get up and do that immediately. But like every morning I wake up and I think, okay, what am I doing today? And
Got
then,
it.
And then
I kind of knew you were going to answer like that with your organized chaos.
Yeah.
Another question. This is from Charlotte. Do you recommend writing for a target age group or just getting the story down and seeing where it goes for new writers?
Getting the story down and seeing where it goes. Because if you write to an age group, if you write to a category or a genre, you're limiting what you could write.
Right. You're boxing yourself in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of course, like if it actually really depends on what you want. Like if you want to do commercial writing, which can be very specific, and there's something, if they want this and this is what you do. So there's that. But like if you're trying to just do something fresh and new, I'm just gonna say it. Like if you want to do something fresh and new and organic, you got to let the story guide you. You can't guide the story. And sometimes they want to do something else. Yeah, I mean, I've had characters do things that I didn't want them to do. I've had as I'm writing.
But the story told you, the character told you.
Yeah, like I've been surprised, like horribly surprised. Who Fears Death was the biggest one, where she did something where I did not want her to do that. That wasn't what I.
But that's where the story went.
Not leaving the room. She's not leaving the room. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. That makes me think, like, have you ever read like back to one of your maybe earliest books or any of your 18 and was like, I don't love this the way I thought I did?
Not that, but there are I'm always editing. Like I can't look at things. I will not look. Like I love Zara the Windseeker. I love the story, but I can't look at it without editing. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I'll look, especially at my beginnings. There are two, like Zara and the Shadow Speaker, and maybe Akata Witch, where I'm not in love with the beginning.
Okay.
Not in love with the beginning, and I'm like, oh, I would totally rewrite that, and I know how I would do it. But yeah, it's cool.
Who's your favorite character? If you could spend your quarantine with any one of your characters, because we're all social distancing, what character of yours?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Like, because like I don't have like a favorite character, because like characters are like my children. I don't have any favorites. But who would I want to social distance with? That's a question.
Okay.
Let's see. Definitely not Phoenix, because she would blow everything up.
We can't have that.
Let's see. Like all of my stories are like flying through my head right now, and there's so many. Probably it's maybe Onye Songwoo from Who Fears Death.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that character. Why that one?
She's a little mean, but like, I think we would get along. I think we would understand each other, and we would get along very well. She's intense. She's very intense. She doesn't like to talk too much, but if she has stuff to say, she will come and tell you. So she's not someone who's going to talk my ear off. I'm very much an introvert. I like my space. She likes her space as well, and she has some really interesting abilities that could keep us entertained. She's a shapeshifter amongst other things. So yeah, I think
nice.
Would be interesting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions in the chat?
I think that's our time, ladies.
Okay.
I'm gonna come back. One moment. Let's get me back on there. That was wonderful, you guys. I'm so happy that we got to make it work.
Yes,
I said,
are we still live?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
was definitely worth the wait. Thank you both so much for being here. Once more, just a great thanks to Nnedi Okorafor for being here, and Mishel Williams. It was perfect conversation.
I'm sorry for the tech difficulties.
Thank you to everyone who participated. Those were great questions and just great enthusiasm. I'm so pleased with the turnout.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any last parting messages?
Just thank you. It was really
thank you,
nice chatting
everyone,
with you and learning more about your work. It was a great opportunity, so I appreciate being able to chat.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for listening. Really great conversation. Great
questions. You guys, great questions.
Thanks all around. If you haven't already gotten your copy of Ikenga, please purchase it from our Uncle Bobbie's bookshop.
And you can order online.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the evening.
Yep.
Take care. Bye.